Destiny like releases kind of a state of the game once a year, and they have this over on Bungie.net. So if you guys haven't read it, we're gonna kind of jump through it. I actively play a lot of Destiny, usually around the expansion time and then before the next expansion time. I thought The Witch Queen was perhaps like the best narrative experience that they've delivered, hands down, in a long time. The changes they brought to The Witch Queen, I really enjoyed. Lightfall looks to be delivering things that I've had on my list for a long time, wanting in this game for a long time. But let's go ahead and dive in. I'll take the first massive paragraph and we'll just kind of jump between Chris and I paragraph to paragraph so that we're not sitting here. I'm not butchering words so much. I feel like I'm better in the world of Destiny, but sometimes the Final Fantasy Square Enix words get me. It says, welcome to February, Guardians. My name's Joe, and you may know me as the EXO of your Grandmaster. In a couple of weeks, Lightfall will be in your hands, and it's the penultimate expansion of the Light and Darkness saga, and its radical acceleration towards the final shape. But as excited as we are about Lightfall, it's not about the only thing coming to Destiny 2 this year. Destiny is a massive, living, breathing organism, and that which requires to thrive, and an incredible development team with a constant update and a list of priorities that can regularly inject high-value changes. So today we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about how we see the game right now and what changes we want to make to Destiny and to continue to evolve and thrive the way we want. First, the good. We've gotten to a place where Guardians can expect consistency in the quality of content coming to Destiny 2 all year long. From the Witch Queen to the Season of the Seraph, we are incredibly proud of the high quality shooter content and the storytelling that has been added to the game over the last 12 months. But amid this quality and consistency, Destiny 2 can sometimes feel too predictable. And while that consistency is necessary for us to be able to regularly update the game to prevent players from having to relearn Destiny every 3 months, as well as to maintain our team's health and sustainability, it's clear that too much predictability can create a lack of surprise and delight by the time some of our major updates get into your hands. So, aside from predictability, we sometimes still hear a refrain that has been sung since the beginning of our journey. There's just not enough to do. While there is plenty happening at the start of the expansion or seasonal drop, by the end of the season, we often see our most engaged players lamenting that they have run out of things to sink their teeth into. I think if they allowed you to like have your season pass that you could grind on at any point in time, that would solve a bit of that. We'll see if they talk about that here in this. It's not a problem that one more strike or additional map can solve. Destiny 2 has an incredible amount of content, but sometimes not all of our content is rewarding as engaging as we like, and sometimes we would just like to find anyone to play with. So the issues are laid out in front of us. We create 4 big goals for Destiny 2 leading to the final shape, and they expand the players' imaginations, bring challenge back to Destiny, enrich our content, and connect our Guardians. Now, none of these goals will be achieved with one change, and they're all going to require constant maintenance to remain true. But for the rest of our time together today, we would like to walk you through how we plan to address these 4 big goals in 2023.
All right. So, to kind of bring everybody up to speed, how many expansions do we have live at the same time?
Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, Witch Queen. I believe that's what I have. Yeah.
Okay. And so people can do stuff across all of that. And that is all laterally gear relevant?
What do you mean laterally gear?
Like, can I go get a piece from one of the older expansions and it's relevant in today's item level?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So it works similar to Guild Wars, and then I can go jump through all of that. So the mountain of content is there. It's just like if in 14 you were brand new today and all relics would be relevant. Well, like, because if all exotics were relevant, that would be like all relics being relevant. And if a new player felt like they could go get a benefit, any benefit at all beyond cosmetic and achievements in getting all 57 battle relics in Final Fantasy 14, like the total number of hours is there. That doesn't mean it's fun. Like that doesn't mean going back and doing the ARR relics is engaging for all players. There are people that probably enjoy those. There are people who probably get an immense sense of accomplishment about it, even if they didn't enjoy it. But that doesn't mean that your answer to a new player who says, well, I hit level 90, I'm done with story, what do I do? should just go, well, you should do your ARR relics. Like, that's not the answer. So I think that's what they're saying so far. That's my understanding as somebody that I missed the last expansion. I haven't been in Destiny in a while. I've spent a lot of time with the game, and Chris has been here in chat kind of translating some words and stuff for anybody that's trying to keep track, because these games all use different vocabulary for the exact same ideas. But that's kind of my understanding so far. So now the question is, what are you going to do to make the content more engaging if the quantity is okay? Having read the thing yesterday where with Guild Wars, they addressed like, yeah, we're happy with the quantity. We want to work on pacing. It sounds like Destiny believes that their problem is that the content itself is not either intrinsically or extrinsically, right? Internal or external. Like, I'm either not getting enough actual rewards,
right?
Just actual physical things in game, or it's just not fun enough on its own that I just want to do it.
Well, and especially as they bring up the core issue of the idea that at the start of the expansion, at the start of the season, everybody's excited about that piece of content, but then as that season goes on, and we see this across all kind of MMOs, like before the next season, it ends up being like, well, what can I really do? And I've expressed my problems and frustrations with that, where it's like, oh, I'm excited that the new season for Destiny is about to drop. Let me jump in. Oh, okay, I'm not going to jump in because like any of the seasonal progress that I'll make, it's just going to get reset. I can't, and I would, like, if I was able to maintain that, jump in, like, imagine, oh, you hit a level 100 or whatever. Oh, by the way, there's these other battle passes that you can kind of go grind out on that you purchased. But then that would solve that problem, because then it's like, oh, I know my progress is going to carry forward. Even if I decide to jump in and stay on the main, the main thing, like I feel disincentivized in the last, 2 to 3 weeks of the season if I'm not active.
So to counter your point, as it doesn't feel good if there's just a little bit of time left in the battle pass and you realize you can't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Last night I had a bunch of free time suddenly, and I didn't want to play Call of Duty because the battle pass hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm at the end of the battle pass, which means I'm about to get a mountain of content fed to me. So I also don't want to start early. So there it is, as the end of that story.
I think it works on both sides.
The problem with battle passes is if you aren't going to finish it, it's not worth starting, because usually all of the best rewards are backloaded. If on the other side, when you do finish it, if you want to keep playing, you feel like you're being told to screw off. In Destiny 2, we want each major update to get the gears inside our players' heads turning on what's new and what it means for the way they interact with the game. This wasn't true for all our releases in the last year, and it's going to take changes across multiple releases to get us to where we want to be. We can't break all the design bones we want to right away, so instead, let's unpack how we take on the big challenge over the course of the next year. Lightfall will launch alongside Season of Defiance. And while most of this content was wrapped up before this new goal was put into place, we still have numerous seasonal quality of life changes alongside substantial iterations to our current model coming to shake things up. Starting with reducing complexity of our progression systems. This means fewer competing currencies to earn. We're doing away with umbrals and umbral energies. So we've unlocked seasonal focusing. If you want to focus an engram into a particular season weapon or armor, all you'll need is Glimmer and a seasonal engram. Additionally, seasonal engrams will be stored and tracked at seasonal vendors. So managing the engram bucket in your character's inventory will be much easier than it is today. Okay, so can we just back up?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of that's like jargon for anybody that's either been away from the game a long time or has never played. So alongside an expansion, you also have a new battle pass, right? That's what the Season of Defiance is.
Yeah, so that exactly. That's the battle pass for that. Yes.
And like what we've heard from a lot of MMOs that have realized they need to pivot over the last couple of years is one of the hard things about pivoting is that you're usually building content alongside your current release schedule. And so when you realize you need to change, that change can be substantially down the pipeline. And so you're like, hey, I need to make a change. And it's like, cool. The player will feel that 2 years from now. And so like they're always, so it seems like some of the things are locked in. And so they're deciding what they can still do. And like any aging MMO, one of their biggest flaws is currencies. And players feeling both just number of currencies, just inventory bloat and currency bloat, where there's 67 different types of tokens. And then in addition to that, how do you handle your reward system so that people feel like they're getting to play the way they want and getting the reward they want? You don't necessarily want all content to be capable of all rewards. You do want some things that are kind of on their respective island, but ideally that's like, oh, a better crafting item came from your crafting system and a better rating item came from your rating system. If there's a really cool mount, it doesn't always feel good if it's like, I don't like crafting, but that's my favorite mount. How do I get there?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest complaints that people have had also, and I've seen that voiced within Destiny because of its PvP and PvE nature. There's a lot of people who just live and breathe in PvE, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Destiny has a verbose PvE experience, and for me, like, I really like usually sit in PvP, and then until they started sunsetting content back before, and they canceled that, thankfully, but I wasn't even bothering with the PvE experience. I was like, oh, it's there, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's going away. I'm going to go do that now. And now I have more of a hybrid approach where I play both. But there were a lot of players who expressed a lot of frustration to me where they're like, why does this quest push me into the Crucible? I do not want to do PvP. Can you give me another way? And Destiny has done, I think, a lot of work and a lot of good adjustments to say you could do this or that. Like, hey, yeah, like you can, oh, you want to do this? Okay, this is stasis or arc. Like, it gives you at least some leverage of choice as opposed to like, this is the one and only way to kind of move the needle. And I think I've really appreciated their changes across the board in that respect.
Okay. So that just kind of helps me understand. It sounds like the strengths and the issues they're having are universal across all MMOs. It feels like now that we're kind of rounding out the lap. We've read everything from New World coming out. We've listened to Final Fantasy talk about their next 10 years. We've listened to WoW talk about their upcoming, and when we did Guild Wars yesterday, and it sounds like they're all struggling from a lot of the same problems, and they're all struggling with a lot of the same issues with their solutions. Of it takes a while for these issues to roll out. They have to be done slowly. And a lot of them are caused by what were very good decisions at the time. A new currency, how exciting! After you've done that 20 times in a row, people are like, okay, but now I just have to keep track of all these different freaking currencies because either 19 of your 20 currencies don't matter anymore, and that doesn't feel good, or right, and that happens in WoW and 14, where you're like, so I have stuff from maybe a tribal quest that doesn't even matter after that point, like that doesn't feel good. So like the Poetics has been a really good solution to that, or you have like Guild Wars, where now every currency is valid simultaneously. And that is just as frustrating because you're like, oh, I have 200 of each of these 90 different currencies. But it's that 91st currency is the one you needed. And you're like, oh, so I have no progress. And that doesn't feel good either.
Yeah.
So I think they're in the same spot. And what Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 did, Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2 did, although they're much more different than Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, is basically said, or 1.0 to 2.0 basically said, this is too much. Let's just start over. But ideally, we're now in a day and age where that's not the case. I think it would frustrate a lot of people if they just said, hey, the solution here is Destiny 3, and we'll just kick the can down the road again. Because that doesn't even create a solution. That just means in 10 or so years, we're exactly where we are today, but it's not our problem today. Instead of coming up with a real lasting solution. But we won't be asking you to hold large stacks of seasonal currency to unlock a chest at the end of every season actively. Instead, we'll be dropping singular keys throughout your playtime that allow you to extract better rewards from the chest at the end of the seasonal activity. This will create a simpler relationship where you know that even if you have one key, you're getting better rewards. It also represents the repositioning of these chests as true bonuses, not requirements. Unlike today's seasonal currencies, keys won't drop every time you complete an activity. To compensate for this change, we've made the base rewards for each seasonal activity completion better so that you can earn and spend a key. It's a meaningful bonus, not a requirement to engage in the seasonal playlist. Finally, by default, keys can drop from seasonal activities, which means you are no longer required to play content outside of the seasonal playlist to chase seasonal rewards. So you're already starting to have this very like FOMO feel. And like, that's one of the things that like WoW really struggles with is that if you're not on the current patch content, everything else feels a little bit meaningless instead of meaningful. so you feel like they took all the time and effort to put this in the game, but it doesn't feel as meaningful as what is highly incentivized within the current pass.
Right. And so that funnels people, and that's one of the things they want to talk about in each of what they want to break that out, so it's not like, oh, I have nothing to do. It's like, oh, really the thing you're doing is the seasonal thing. Everything else has kind of had and lost its incentive.
Okay, cool. So on top of these changes, in Season of Defiance, players can expect fewer total vendor upgrades, with each individual upgrade being more potent and some upgrades even offering a variance on the way you interact with seasonal activity. In Season of Defiance, we've also taken a big stab at the way we name our various progression systems and currencies. We want any player to read the name of something and immediately understand what it does. In short, to spend more time on playing and less time trying to understand
what
they are supposed to do. What game was it that we were watching the announcement and we got so excited when they said more time shooting? Was it Destiny?
It was Destiny. It's like less time between.
When they talked about Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, they were so pumped that Destiny 2 was going to spend more time shooting, less time in load screens, going to the tower and all that. And then the game launched, and I was in load screens, and I was in the freaking tower, and it was like, what are you talking about? There was this whole, like, we just want you to spend, like, at that point, I was like, well, just give me a mini game to shoot in the load screen, because the shooting is why I play Destiny. It's so good.